Hey everyone, happy Monday. We are here. We're here. It's the Monday before Christmas. This is it. I know there's a bunch of like late last minute shoppers. It's time to get on it.
Everything.
But we're happy to be with you. This is your first
Too late
time.
now.
Yeah, right. If this is your first time with us here on Mondays, welcome to the Monday Rundown, where Winston and I'm Janelle Villiers, that's Winston Broderick, we're your two hosts. We get to talk about all the things we don't normally talk about on our Wednesday show. So Wednesdays are typically reserved for talks about entrepreneurship and what it's like to build a business. But on Mondays, we get to just talk about life stuff. And then we look to other YouTube creators, other thought leaders on the topics, and we all learn together. It's a lot of fun. So what is today's topic?
Let's do it.
How do you make tough decisions? How do you make tough decisions? I'm sure everybody has their own method for doing this. For me, I have noticed, okay, so there are two things. Sometimes I get super indecisive because I'm like, oh, well, if I do this, there'll be this good outcome. Or if I don't do this, it'll be this outcome. Actually, now that I just said that out loud, typically, if I do this, there could potentially be this positive outcome. But if I don't do it, usually the don't doing actually is a positive outcome for me. It usually has to do with like me.
Myself. Say that again.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again.
If a lot of times I see an opportunity, I'm invited to go somewhere.
Okay.
Like, right, like and maybe that's not considered a tough decision, but it feels tough because in the moment I'm like super indecisive. And what I just realized in what I was about to say, and then I was like, wait, actually, Janelle, that's a lie. What you really do is this. I think about the reasons to say yes to that, make a yes on that decision. And a lot of times that has to do with the possibility of what could happen, something positive, some sort of positive outcome, right? And if I were to say no to that opportunity, that invitation, whatever the idea is, if I say no to it, it's a lot of times it's usually because what the possible positive outcome usually has to do with myself. Well, if I don't go, then I'll be able to relax. I'll be able to like.
Oh, okay.
I'll be able to, instead of focusing time on this other thing and these other people, I could really like focus on my master class, right? Like I could focus on reaching out to my clients. I could, right? Like it has something to do more with me. And as I'm saying this out loud, this is wild that I'm saying this out loud.
Through there, processing.
Yeah, I'm like, huh. And maybe that's why it becomes a difficult decision for me, because I oftentimes find it more difficult to choose myself than it is to choose others. So perhaps the reason why it's difficult to say no is because it's harder to choose myself. So to that end, where I was going to go with this is that I had a mentor, shout out to Josh Valentine, who once said, look, you got to live a life where if you're presented with a decision, if the first thought isn't a hell yes, then the answer
no.
is a hell no. Yeah. And there was a time when I lived by that philosophy, and it just made my life so much simpler, because I was like, the hemming and hawing, it was like, no, obviously if I'm hemming and hawing, then the answer is no, like just don't go. Also learning that no is a full sentence. That is something that I'm working on. Now, for bigger, like life-changing decisions, like the decision to move to another country or another state, the decision to change jobs, quit your job, all those different things. I have found those decisions easier to make. I usually make them and then I make them, and the decision is made. And then it's just, now I move forward and plan. It's really interesting. I think that with the leaving of the job, first it was, I'm working on my plan B. So I had like a plan and I was working on it. And then I was like, my mental health is really not helping. I'm out. Like I had made the decision. And then it was just, now I need to make the plan to catch up to the decision that I've just made. The decision to move from Harlem to Westchester, it was like, I'm deciding to, moving anywhere, everyone knows this is always that's one of the bigger things that happens in your life. It's just moving, period. Even if it's within the same city. But even that, right? Like I made the decision and then it was like, yep, this is what I'm doing. And now I just create the plan to align with the decision that I had made. So those are the two thoughts that I've just had. have decisions that I deliberate on, and I lean into Josh Valentine's wisdom there. And then for some of the larger decisions, most recently in my life, I recognize I actually make those decisions quite quickly, and then I make the plan right after. I start working on the plan after.
Okay. I actually think I do both things or all of this. One with things that come, I guess if we go with the Josh wisdom, and I've heard it from someone else as well, and he gave a similar I guess explanation. He goes, if the immediate it's a guy doing a seminar, and he was asking someone about their passion, like something that they find as a passion, and there was a hesitation. And the philosophy that he shares is when there is that hesitation, that's the indication for you that whatever the following thought, or I guess however you are going to respond moving forward, it's you maybe trying to give an answer that's not genuine to who you are. But that immediate or that initial response of hesitation or pause is who you really, or how you really wanted to respond to that. Because things that you are truly, and I'm going to stick with the passion, things that you're truly passionate about or excited about, you probably don't have that hesitation. And for myself, I know that's true. I know things that that I know I want to do or excited about, a movie I want to see, I tend to, and if there is some sense of hesitation, now it doesn't mean I don't maybe go look at that movie or still follow through on some of those decisions, but it helps me understand, to your second point, that there may be some planning or adjusting in my, maybe even just my mental, my is it my perception? It's mostly my emotions, because there's something emotionally going on where I felt, whether it's fear, uncertainty, it's coming from something that, to your point, I haven't planned through or thought through, and therefore I'm uncertain of it. Again, if I believe something's going to go well, I'll go back to the initial example of, like, let's say a movie. I don't really put much thinking into it. I allow myself to go through the process, and I just, enjoy the movie for what I believe it's going to be. I was even thinking of the example you gave about moving, but I don't think it would work out in that way as well. Similarly, I think if I was excited about where I was going to move, I'd probably just jump and figure the rest of it out. Right. But if there's that bit of hesitation, I know that it probably means I need to do just maybe more planning, more research. But if I have to make that decision, I'm still going to go through with it. And same thing, just work on myself as I go through this new decision or this new journey. If it was like you leaving your job, it'd be me going, hey, I'm leaving Equinox. And I just went from there. And because I knew in my mind, if in my mind, it was a question of, similar to you, mental health, financial responsibilities, and knowing ultimately I can get a job somewhere else, or I can work and earn income somewhere else. So those are the little things that I knew I needed to figure out. But my immediate, oh man, I'm happy to do this, was the answer I needed to know it was time to leave. There wasn't, literally, there was no, I remember the conversation with the guy on the phone, like, it was, hey, you need to come back. COVID's going on. And I'm like, nah, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, no, literally. And I didn't even consider those other things that we're now, again, when I'm thinking, it's like, oh, I didn't consider those things. I immediately thought of myself and my family at the time. And I was like, no, I'm okay. Those other things weren't important to me. Right. Now in a different state, I probably, again, given the state I was in, may have made a different decision, but I know for myself then it was the right decision for where I was at that point. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so. All right, who do we got on deck today?
This is so good. All right, well, we are back with our friends at the School of Life. Go ahead and put an S in the chat if you are also a fan of School of Life. We want to hear it. It's not just us. All right, and so here we go.
Let's do it. Take us to school.
A significant and intense chunk of our lives may be spent pondering hard choices. Should we continue in our relationship with X, or part from them to see who else we might find? But what if we land on no one better? But what if we stay and the relationship never improves? Should we buy this property that's beautiful but worryingly close to the railway tracks? Or should we buy the other one that has a bit less charm but might be quieter? Should we accept this job that has prestige and the possibility of a stellar future? Or should we stay where we are because we love our colleagues and have a high quality of life? Part of the agony of choosing at such moments is that we are in the background, consumed by the idea that the wrong choice may prove appalling in the extreme, and the right choice a route to exceptional fulfillment. But we are perhaps suffering unnecessarily and might find reassurance in the strategic use of two kinds of thinking, alternately optimistic and pessimistic in tone. To trial the former, we might propose that part of the reason why certain choices feel so hard is that all options on the table have, in truth, something quite good to offer us. The choice is only hard because we are having to pick between substantially decent alternatives. We cannot choose because the choices before us are all pretty good. If we stayed with X, there would be much to celebrate. And if we went off and found someone else, well, they would have many charms too. As for the two homes we're judging between, both are really very pleasant in different ways. And the same holds true for our jobs. Whichever option we choose, we will have much to be pleased about. There is equal comfort to be found by running the argument in an opposite, pessimistic direction. We can get easily obsessed by the idea that a wise choice is going to help us to prevent a nightmare. But considered soberly, there will be something pretty difficult about every route we choose to go down. We're finding it hard to choose because all options have their unavoidably disappointing dimensions. X partner can certainly be annoying, but so will Y partner. Pretty much anyone we end up with is going to have their dispiriting sides. There is no dodging the inherent difficulty of everyone. As for property, no house can ever make life perfect. A lot of unhappiness will be ours wherever we happen to sleep. No house can spare us fundamental agonies of existence. Similarly, the dissatisfactions we know in our present job will have equivalents whatever job we pick. In other words, everything is certain to be a bit awful. A truth we are vainly striving to deny in our furious search for what we think of as the right choice. What powers the pain of choice is to a large extent an illusion. The idea of a single solution that can either conclusively deliver happiness or skirt unhappiness. We are thereby exaggerating our agency. Once we recognize that by the time we are spending hours on a choice, anything we choose will be both pretty fine and simultaneously, stubbornly, somewhat awful too. We may cease to grow either quite so exercised or so terrified. We can afford to rest more easily. We are never far from pain, and we are never far from joy. We might almost let a roll of the dice decide the rest.
This is actually really satisfying.
Yeah.
Just this idea that, yeah, I think they're absolutely right. It's this idea when you're making the decision, it's like, the wavering is kind of like when I was saying before, and I was like, oh, well, this could happen if I do this, or this could happen if I do that. Which one will be the better outcome for me, as if like one of them is going to be really horrible or really wonderful. But the truth of the matter is it's not going to be really horrible, either of them. It's not going to be really wonderful, either of them either. There'll be some good and bad with both of those decisions. And I'm talking about the things that I like hem and haw over, whereas the ones I still think that what we said earlier is still true. I love
still true.
I love what your mentor said about like when there is hesitation, that just shows that your first answer is more aligned with who you really are, is probably the what behind Josh's, well, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Like the reason why is because, you're being more true to yourself.
Yeah.
I still think that that's valid. And I don't think that takes away from anything that they said. It's just another way to reaffirm.
To take a look at that though.
Yeah. It's really what's true to us. And if what's true to you is the thing that like makes the most sense to you, then you already know inherently there's going to be some like negative things to the choice that you ultimately make. Like the job thing, right? So you talked about when you left, you were like, yeah, no, for me and my family, this is not a good choice. You knew that like, it's probably going to be tough and I'm going to have to make some adjustments and whatever. The decision was quick though, because you just knew it was right for you, knowing that it wasn't going to be like, oh my God, like, I mean, right? Like,
well, do you know what plays a, yeah, you are right in that. And what plays a role in specifically, I guess, around work is just my experience, in the sense that my firm, when I was doing real estate, closed, and that wasn't a decision that I got to make. So I've been in a position where another person, it's one of the, I know it's one of the things about wanting a desire to have my own business, for us to have our own stuff. It's just not letting somebody else have the power to tell me, or actually no, realizing that more often than not, people aren't in control in that sense when it comes to like their jobs. And so if the rug did get pulled out from under you, what's there to do? You can only, just to your point, adjust and move on. What I wanted to highlight was what they talked about in relationships, and what stood out to me was this idea of I think there's no, whatever the idea of maybe someone's perfect relationship, whatever that looks like. I think what they were talking about, where we realize that even if you or whatever are unhappy and you go on to some place or move on to someone else, chances are you're going to run into some friction in that relationship as well. Is what came to mind for me, because I do think that is one of those things people, it's like, oh, I have to go, or I should leave, but you're taking yourself with you. I remember just a period of time, and I still to this day, I remember when my house was being foreclosed on, and the idea of, even when things were going good or well financially, I still had emotion or periods where things emotionally were still not the best for me, even though these other areas in my life were secure, or how I thought they were secure. So just let me know that life, that's just being in control or managing your own emotions, is really what half this, to me, life is about. Because things are going to happen that you have no control over sometimes. But what you can control is truly how you respond to those things. And that just the part where they brought it up, that's what came up for me, to end my confusing.
But I agree. I agree.
I know you understand what I'm saying, but just that idea.
Yeah. Making the decision.
You're still taking yourself with you.
Yes. Right. And there's gonna be some
beef. There'll be something that shows up there. Exactly. And so it's like, if you aren't learning that you are the thing that needs to be changing, it's not this, it's not this other person. And so yeah, I appreciate, this is a really good video. They do an amazing job. I love how they articulate ideas in such a small period of time.
Once again, School of Life.
Say that.
We love you. Love the School of Life.
Come on, Apple, do it right by us. There we go.
All right. Well, we will see you next week. Have an amazing Christmas for all of you who celebrate. If you do the Kwanzaa thing, we wish you a happy Kwanzaa as it starts to roll around. We'll see you next Monday. But until then, as always, remember that you deserve the good life. Say that.
Say that. We'll see you guys. Stay safe in the streets.